Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/askreddit, where Reddit's asking, therapists of Reddit, what was your biggest I know I'm not supposed to judge you, but holy crud moment? And we're going to go over the answers Reddit provided. If you enjoy, like and subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts down below, and let's get started. I was counseling a 13-year-old girl for anxiety, and she reported naughty abuse from her stepdad. I called her mom and told her mother I needed to call Child Protective Services. It turns out CPS was already aware, and the abuse was first reported around the patient's age of 7. Mom was aware of the abuse and stayed with her husband anyway. It was a complicated situation, she said. And yet it wasn't. How could she not do more to protect her daughter? Sorry, lady, but I'm judging. My professor once shared what a patient said that made her quit her job. I didn't sexually abuse my daughter. She liked it. The daughter, by the way, was 6 years old. Just 6. She couldn't take it anymore. She worked in a rehabilitation center for people who have been sentenced for serious crimes and were forced to get mental help. It's a really difficult job, and this pushed her over the edge. I work at a residential group home. We had a kid who we had admitted about 4 months prior. When in a family session, they mentioned they had parasites. I'm like, what? Mom then goes, oh yeah, our whole family has them. We don't believe in getting rid of them since they're just part of our biological ecosystem. And I'm just dumbstruck. We spent 3 weeks afterwards convincing the family it was an infectious disease. Concerns other residents had about fecal eating behaviors and various other unsanitary issues that could cause a unit spread. 3 weeks of education, planning, and worst of all, convincing this kid and their mother that their IQ wouldn't drop because they agreed to irradiate the parasites. Lots of CBT work, but Jesus, it took way longer than any of us imagined. Once had a patient whose wife shook their baby to death. He wanted help reconnecting with his wife. At the time, I was a young father of a newborn myself, and he triggered a lot of fear in me for my own child. A deep loathing of his spouse and pity. The how pathetic kind of pity. I tried for 3 sessions, met his spouse and everything before handing the case over to my supervisor, who knew about my initial reactions and tried to help me through it. Unfortunately, it ended up being more about my feelings than his, and I was new to the profession at that time. These things are expected to crop up from time to time, but I was still taken aback by my own reactions. I do acute pediatric inpatient behavioral therapy. Has never happened with a child, and it probably never will. But parents, on the other hand, can be real pieces of poo, and the way they treat and abuse their children, then throw them off on us and scream, "Fix them!" I'm a big burly guy, and I've cried many nights over this. Hiccups, oh my god. I work with kiddos who have experienced some kind of abuse or trauma. 90% of my clients have been naughtily abused. I have a lot of holy poo moments, not from judgment of my clients, but from what happened to them. I've had clients whose father made them help him dismember the mother's body, after the dad offed her in front of them. I've had clients under the age of 8 who have been naughtily trafficked. I've had clients who have been forced to film pain naughties. I have holy shit moments all the time. I was once in my psychiatrist's office, a bi-monthly 15 minutes med check. She asked me what was going on, more as a conversation. I told her that in the last 6 weeks, my 3 elders, aunt and 2 uncles, I was guardian and the conservator for had died, one right after the other. My wife had a heart attack. My daughter attempted unaliving. And my mom broke her hip and is laid on the floor for a week before being found. She drank and ate from the dog bowls. I got that call within 10 minutes of setting up the last funeral. My psychiatrist stopped the meeting, got on the phone with a therapist in the office next to her, and had her postpone her next meeting to speak with me. I was so screwed up I had no idea. I think she saved my life. Here's the most recent one. As the pandemic worsened here in the US and more lockdowns are on their way, one of my most extroverted clients and I brainstormed ways to meet her social needs while remaining safe. The following week she canceled her session and told me that she's positive for COVID after attending an orgy, which definitely wasn't one of our ideas. I let out the deepest, most defeated sigh after I hung up the phone. I joined in a review of a secluded patient, and he threw a cup of wee and poo in my face when we opened the door. I tried to be objective about his experience, but I just thought, what a cunt. I work in inpatient services, so it can be hard to challenge myself at times. Individuals with diagnosis of personality disorder, for example, can make things that in isolation make you think that they're just being bratty or manipulative. But to think of the experiences that shape them to react like that in a given situation can help to clear my judgment and find compassion. It's harder when someone bites me or hits me with one of our fabulously detachable anti-ligature curtain poles, though. I work with youth and adolescents who have anxiety, trauma, and depression. Some of the kids I worked with had some pretty severe attachment issues. Regardless of this, I never thought I'd have to seriously explain. 1. You can't just buy a straitjacket for your kids. 2. Feeding your kid ultra spicy ramen each night instead of the meal everyone else is eating isn't specifically defined as abuse, but you have to understand the emotional abuse that causes. Your kid isn't trying to kill you because they stand in your doorway at night crying. It's likely because they're scared of their traumatic nightmares, but feel like you'll just yell at them if they wake you up. My God. Clinical psychologist working primarily in forensics here. This means my clients are usually involved in legal proceedings. Family court, juvenile court, criminal court, etc. My job is usually to evaluate or provide treatment. I'm not there to judge, but that's the judge's job. But of course, I do have my own thoughts. I'm usually impressed by the justifications people make for their cruddy behavior. The one that irks me the most is when parents manipulate their child against the other parent. I've had to do therapy for a 5-year-old who said she doesn't want to see a parent because they haven't paid child support. Excuse me? What 5-year-old knows, understands, or needs to be worried about child support? Jesus Christ. Opposite side if that's accepted too. I was assigned to see the lead psychologist of the local hospital, as I was severely depressed and had become prone to unaliving. She literally rolled her eyes at me, told me to grow up, and said she could be having appointments with people who were actually about to off themselves, not me, who was already working with the team. And this sent me absolutely spinning, bottling everything up, thinking I didn't deserve help, and ended up in the hospital almost 2 years later with an attempt. When they looked at my records in the hospital, they suddenly became very interested in any psychological experts I'd previously spoken to. I informed them of the above incident, and they asked if I knew the name, and I said I don't. But they have a strong accent. They immediately looked like they were about to burst out crying, apologized excessively, and then informed me they had been fired a year ago. No idea how many people were affected by that therapist. When I was a teenager, I lived in a very emotionally and mentally abusive household. I know people don't take that stuff seriously, but it was so bad I was later diagnosed with PTSD from a psychiatrist. Anywho, my abusive parents and I got in a verbal fight in the car. My stepdad stopped the car and told me to get out. We're leaving you on the highway. I wasn't scared because I knew I could just call the police. Say I was an abandoned child and they get loads of trouble. So I said, sounds good, and got out. My mom then came out and started attacking me. I refused to get back in the car after the attack, so my stepdad got out, dragged me by the hair, called me a bipolar bitch, and threw me in. They made me see a therapist. They told her I jumped out of a moving car and then I attacked my mom when she was trying to help. This therapist didn't believe anything I said and tried getting me to take bipolar meds. I knew I wasn't bipolar. I was being abused, and I knew that the anger and sadness I felt was normal for any situation. She glared at me and said, "You're not nearly as smart as you think you are." And after that, I refused to say a word in any of our therapy sessions. I would just go in, sit down, she'd make snarky, sarcastic remarks for a few minutes, and then dismiss me. She wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to help my parents. I moved out when I was 18, went to college all on my own, with no financial help with my family. Got a job and left the country to be as far away from them as possible. I'm on antidepressants for my PTSD, and luckily the therapists I've had since my teenage years have been nothing like that horrible woman. But it still upsets me very deeply thinking about it. And now to end this off with a slightly lighthearted one. When I was underage, I got caught with a drink on Bourbon Street and got a minor in possession. I was telling my therapist about it and said the police caught me with a hand grenade in New Orleans. He did not realize that a hand grenade was a type of drink, and it was funny to watch him try and process that his patient might have just casually told him that he had been caught with a fragmentation grenade. He took a big long pause and said, "Where did you even find a grenade?" I realized the misunderstanding quickly and corrected him, but for a moment he definitely was thinking, "Holy shit, how do I deal with this?" That's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like the video, check out my links in the description below, and maybe throw me a few bucks on my Ko-Fi for my work. YouTube doesn't pay me yet, and I need the num-nums. And I need money to get the num-nums. Anyway, I'll see you all next time.